Hello, and this is Boogest Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a Throwback Thursday review on Spawn, Super Patriot, and Violator. So before we take a look at all of them, I'm going to take a look at Spawn. And this is the Spawn variant, Hamburger Head variant. And I love this figure. It's just an all-around great figure. And this is from 1994, and this was the first wave of Spawn. And this action figure is great. I mean, the only accessory it comes with is this. It's a plank of wood with a nail through it. It doesn't honestly look too much like a nail, but they sculpted the wood pretty good. So, even though he's Spawn, he doesn't really need this, but it's a good accessory for him. It fits in his hand really good. And his cape. I really don't want to do this too much because I don't want the plastic to rip since it's thin right here, but you're supposed to be able to pose the cape like that. But it's still a good figure. I mean, I still just love this figure because this is the first Spawn toy, well, the first Spawn variant ever made. And the detail on his head is just amazing. Even for back then, McFarlane Toys still did a great job on their sculpting. I like the collar, how it's brown and then it has white in it. It just looks like raw skin. And I think that looks really good. And they did a good job with all of the chains and all of the lines they're painted on and the spikes. They did good with them too. And I did want to show that you can pop his cape off. It's just attached like this. And his chains are actually meant to come off. You just unplug them from there and then plug it down in his hand. So I think that's really cool too. And that looks really cool. So I like that. They had really good gimmicks back then with these toys. And they're just holes that you can attach them into. They're probably hard to see, but you just plug them in like that, and then plug this in right here. And then there's that. And now, before I put the cape back on, I'll go over his articulation. He has a swivel head that can turn side to side. He has swivel arms that can move up and down. He has swivel hips that can just move up and down. And he has swivel knees that can move up and down. It's the same on this side. So, these toys didn't have a lot of articulation, but they were still good for their time. Just put this back in here. It's a little hard to get back in, but it'll go. And you just fasten his skull chain back over into there. There you have it. There's Spawn. So this is a really good toy since it's the variant of the first Spawn toy ever made. And they did really good, and it just showed what was to come from the line. So I really like this toy. So next up, I've got Super Patriot. And I think they did even better on the sculpting on this. And they did really good with this. McFarlane Toys even put a dry brushing of brown to make it look like rust on the metal. And I like that. And he has real hair for his ponytail. I like that too. It actually looks really good with the figure and it doesn't hinder anything. And they did really good with all the sculpting on this and the collaring. They did good on the sculpt work on his cybernetic arms. Same way with this one. They sculpted all the wires in. And on his legs too. They did good sculpting on that. And the collar, I like that too. And he came with alternate arms. You could pop these off and put on this one. And they did great sculpting on this one too. This is a really good toy. I actually have the Legendary Series Super Patriot from Toy Biz, and I still prefer this one over it. So this one is still a great toy, and still holds up today. And then his other one. And the thing is, if you move his arms a certain way, he stands perfectly too. He doesn't have any issues standing with either one of them. With his guns, with his gun hands, since they're a little heavy, you just need to move this one up. But he can stand perfectly by himself. And it's a good toy. So, I'm going to put his normal arms back on him here. and then go over his articulation. And these come on and off really, really easy. But they stay on really good, so that's good too, because if you take them off very much, I thought they might become loose, but they really didn't. He's got a swivel head that can move side to side, swivel arms that can move up and down. He actually has a swivel at his waist, a swivel at the hips that move up, and he has a swivel knee joint that can move back. So I still love this toy, and it's a great toy. Even though it's old, I still prefer this one over the legendary comic book heroes that Toy Biz did. And next we've got a really big one. It's Violator. And this toy was just the price of normal ones. It was like $5 or $10. And this toy is great. And he actually has wires inside of him that bend, so you can really get him in any position you want. And I really like that because he's such a big figure that incorporating actual joints into him probably would have hindered his articulation a lot. So with the bendable joints, you can really get him doing whatever you want. And the sculpting on this is awesome. They sculpted all of his warts in, and they did like a dry brushing of dark gray to give it like more tone. And it's the same on his sternum here. They did great with the sculpting on here. And then his horn, you can move it down, and it retracts his jaw. And they did great with the collar on his gums and tongue, and they sculpted out his teeth really well. And I even like the sculpting on this. They did a dry brushing over it with dark brown to give it more of a bone color, like it's decaying. And McFarlane Toys really did great with this one. This is the demonic form of the clown. And so, like I said, for his articulation, you can move this up, and it moves his jaw closed, and move it down to make his mouth open. And since it's basically like a bendable figure, you can get in really any pose you want. You can even make him do that. I don't know why you do that, but you can still make him do whatever you want. You can pose him like that. And he doesn't really stand up too well just on his own like that because he's so lanky and top heavy with his head. But it's still a really good figure. And just to show it in scale with Spawn, he's in perfect scale with Spawn. So they did great with this toy. They made it the perfect size. I even like the articulation on this with it being bendable. So this is a great toy. And I still prefer this over the later McFarlane Toys Violator because the 2003 ones really didn't have too much articulation. So I still love this one. And here's a comparison of all of them side by side. There. Here's a comparison of all of them side by side. And Super Patriot is meant to be taller than Spawn, so they did great with all the heights on all these toys. And the sculpting is great, the coloring is great. The dry brushing on him is especially good. And just for fun, here's a comparison of the collar top Spawn, which I will be reviewing next week, as compared to this one. And actually, this one, his arms can move up just a little bit, but it really doesn't do anything. So, I like the articulation on the 1994 one better than the new one. But here's a comparison. And I still like these. And it just shows like how far toys have come since then. Like this figure, it still has wonderful sculpting for how old it is. But it just shows you like how far they've come with sculpting and all the details and stuff like that. So these toys are really great. And I would highly recommend these. So, if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching. And I'll be back next week for another Throwback Thursday review.